All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about some comments made by Steven Sims on the Texans receiving corps. And kind of one of the forgotten guys in that receiving corps. Now, he did run back that punt return in the playoff game against the Ravens. Just to put some respect on his name. Now, that was really the only highlight for the Texans in that playoff game. But he did do that, so give him credit. So let's kind of go over what he had to say, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. So he said, we've got a great group. He said this at his annual youth camp via Aaron Wilson of KPRC to Houston. He said, I can't wait to get back to camp. It's going to be so much fun. I feel like there are going to be a lot of big plays, a lot of fun, but it's a business and it's work. It's time to get back to work, and I'm excited to go back to work with the group. We've got, I feel like from top to bottom, everybody can get it done. And he also said, had a great return, but in the grand scheme of things, it means nothing. We lost the game. Oh, yeah, this is talking about the playoff game. We lost the game. We didn't reach our goals. That's the bottom line. We want to reach our goals, and I want to do everything I can to help the team get to our goal, which is the Super Bowl. And, yeah, I mean, this Texans team, look, I mean, I've talked about them a bunch of times. They are going to be very good in 2024, especially now with the addition of Stefon Diggs. The sky's the limit for what they can do. And they're led by a young quarterback that had a great first season. Yeah, so, I mean, they're ready to roll. Yeah, because you got Stefon Diggs, you got Nico Collins, you got Tank Dell, but you also have Robert Woods as well. Noah Brown made plays for them last year. John Metchie. I mean, they're expecting, they're hoping that he could be. Well, actually, I don't really know what they could. I mean, they could cut him. But yeah, John Metchie really hasn't had an impact. But you also have him as well. You got Steven Sims. They also picked up Ben Skoranek, who was with the Rams as well. But yeah, they got a lot of depth at the receiver position. You also got Dalton Schultz as well, another pass catcher at the tight end spot. Brevin Jordan made play or had that touchdown in the playoff game against the Browns. They have a lot of playmakers on this offense, and C.J.Stroud kind of has like this embarrassment of riches, and you're gonna see that on full display throughout the season. Guys are gonna take turns having big games. Like one game it's gonna be Nico Collins, one game it's gonna be Tank Dell. Diggs is gonna have a big game at certain points. It's gonna be they are gonna be one of the funnest teams to watch in 2024, and maybe that's a list I could do. The top teams to be most excited to watch in 2024. Because again, we still got like I said, we got 3 weeks and a day till the first preseason game is played. So we still got to fill in the gaps here. And I'll be honest, being off last week kind of helped me out because it's been tough out here. And we also got a comment, Generation X. He comments, #Colts, #AFC. Listen, the Colts are going to be another team to look out for. If Anthony Richardson can play a full season, that's a team to look forward to watch. That I'm looking forward to watch in 2024 as well. And I actually did see Kay Adams said that's a team to watch out for too. Is the Colts, a team that can make the playoffs. And a full year of Jonathan Taylor, full year of Anthony Richardson. It's possible. And we get to see C.J.Stroud and Anthony Richardson face off right off the bat. They play each other week 1. So that's a game to definitely lock in on in the week 1 slate. So, but yeah, I mean, I still, for me, I think the Texans are the favorites. I'm curious to see how the other 3 teams are. Like I said, I think the Colts could be good. The Jags, they could bounce back. The Titans, I mean, you got to say they upgraded the receiving core, and they upgraded on defense. You got L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, but what is that going to amount to in this conference? It really is going to come down to Will Levis, I think, and his development. So, but with the Texans, I mean, you know, that receiving core is one of the best in the NFL. Really is. And I think Stefon Diggs is going to bounce back. You know, I know there's this notion that maybe he's washed. And I've talked about it quite a few times on the show. I don't believe he's washed. You know, I just think the Bills, they phased him out a little bit. You know, they relied on the running game more. And, yeah, he had some drops, but I think Stefon Diggs still has some good football left in him. And, you know, I think it helps that, you know, there's some pressure, I think, taken off of him when he steps into a situation like Houston. And Nico Collins had his best season, and Tank Dell, before he got hurt, was making plays. You know, Stefon Diggs doesn't have to be the guy. Now, I'm curious to see how he responds to that, where he has those games. This is another thing that I've said, you know, a few times as well. How is he going to feel if he doesn't have those big games all the time? Because there's only one ball. And C.J.Stroud is going to be spreading the ball around. You know, like I said, each receiver is going to have their big games. And you might see some games where all three of them have 100-plus games. But how is Stefon Diggs going to feel if he's not getting the ball that much? That's something to keep an eye on, because he's kind of been that common denominator. You know, he left Minnesota, wanted out of there. You know, eventually got his way out of Buffalo. You know, how is it going to be now with Houston? I mean, like I said, I think he's going to be good. I don't think he's fallen off. I think he's still got some good years left, but you know, I don't think you're going to see him getting, you know, 100 yards, 100-plus yards every single week. It's not going to happen because there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And I think the Texans are going to want to run the football a little bit too. You know, with Joe Mixon. And yeah, Damian Pierce was a disappointment last year. So much so that he was, you know, returning kicks. He was on special teams. So, yeah, who knows? But, yeah, that's one thing to keep an eye on. Stefon Diggs. You know, is he going to be okay with, you know, Nico Collins having big games and Tank Dell having big games and there being some games where he just really, you know, doesn't have an impact on the game? Because, like I said, C.J.Stroud is going to be spreading the ball around a lot. He's not going to be force-feeding one receiver. And that's great for him. Because, like I said, he's got embarrassment of riches. You know, so... And that's what's going to make the Texans dangerous. You know? And let's see how they match up with the Ravens again. You know, you're going to be playing the Bills. You're playing all the first-place teams. You know, late in the season, you're going to be playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, which that's a game that I got circled on the schedule. And that's in Arrowhead. That should be a lot of fun. You know, how are they going to be? Because against the Ravens last year, I mean, you could throw out the Week 1 game because that was C.J. Stroud's first start, and we really didn't have any expectations for the Texans at that point, but you know, in the playoffs, they struggled against the Ravens once again. They didn't have an offensive touchdown. The only touchdown was the Steven Sims, you know, punt return. So, we'll see how they are this time around. This is year 2. You know, they also, you know, on defense made some upgrades. You know, they got Danielle Hunter. So you got him to go along with Will Anderson Jr. Yeah, I mean, this Texans team, there's a lot to like about this team. And they got the right guy at head coach. It's amazing how they turned it around. Because, the whole thing with Deshaun Watson and, the Texans, the Texans fleeced the Browns. But, yeah, those couple of years, when Deshaun Watson wasn't playing, they were rough. And the Texans, they were a team that, they made the playoffs every year. Watson's first year they didn't make the playoffs. But, yeah, they made the playoffs in 2018 and 2019. But then they traded DeAndre Hopkins, and, things kind of changed. 2020 was awful. Even though Deshaun Watson had a good year, the Texans were really bad. And then everything with Deshaun Watson, his whole situation, that happened. And, they weren't good in 2021. Weren't good in 22. But last year, they exceeded expectations. And now they got bigger expectations. They got higher expectations. And are they going to be able to handle that? I feel like D'Amico Ryans and C.J.Stroud, I feel like they can handle it. And I think they're going to be a very good team. And, let's see what they can do. Can they go even further in the playoffs? Can they be the team that knocks off the Kansas City Chiefs? I think they definitely are one of the teams that can do it. They got the talent for it. They got the quarterback to do it. So, we'll see. But let me know what you guys think about the Texans receiving core. Who do you think is going to have the best season out of the trio? Is it going to be Tank Dell? Is it going to be Stefon Diggs? Or is it going to be Nico Collins? Right now, I would lean Nico Collins. But let me know. Maybe it's Noah Brown. No, I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Texans receiving core. How do you see each receiver doing? And like I said, who do you think is going to be who do you think is going to have the best statistical season out of the big three? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, and I've actually been kind of good with transitions. We did talk about the Kansas City Chiefs briefly just now. We'll talk about them some more. We'll talk about Carson Wentz. His comments on kind of being, stepping into this new role as the backup to Patrick Mahomes. So I'll get into that, give you my thoughts on it when we return from our final break of the show. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.